Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, morning.
Good morning.
We'll give it one more minute and then we can get started. Sessions are recorded anyway.
Yep, sounds good.
Hooray, you probably need Duan, right? I think I invited him. Okay, there it is.
Yep. Yeah.
We can get started then. Okay, what are we covering this session? I think we have it in the agenda, but want to make sure that you guys are prepared for that.
Yeah, let me introduce Duan. He's one of the leaders and architects of the team. And yeah, he got some past experience working with the external integrations with the external services and other topics related to that. So he will be showing us how to do this kind of integration, how to call external APIs and other topics. And the idea is to be with you if you have any questions or if you have any comments about the process, so we can rush the time with Duan in this session.
Cool. Yeah.
So, morning, Duan.
Good morning, team. Just give me 1 second. I am opening the GTPath code just to show you guys how GTPath integrates with different applications. So I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know once you are able to see it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so GTPath has different ways to integrate to different platforms. So inside the ISAC platform, we have Campfire jobs. Those Campfire jobs allow us to integrate with different platforms, execute jobs to connect. One of the integration that currently we have is with another platform inside EY that is called GTPW. For that integration, what we are doing is creating a background job. Okay, and inside the background job that is running every 2 minutes. In this case, what we are doing is connecting to a 1 second. Is connecting to this class, is executing this class to generate a connection. GTPath is not making use of any whitelist. Let's say if you want to connect to an external provider, you don't need from GTPath side to whitelist that IP address. You can just connect directly. Here is one of the connections that we have is with Microsoft to generate an token, so we can define generic class just to perform some activities. This is to generate a token. And also here we have another classes that allow us to connect with the platform. In
So there are
GTPAT, what
question there. So there are no restrictions from infrastructure point of view that it cannot make any outbound connections, right? There's no such restrictions. It can make an API call and still retrieve the response from that without any
yes,
issues. Okay, cool, cool.
yes. So one thing is in GTPAT, everything is isolated by client. So if you are connected to a third party, you need to generate a secret or a key for that connection. At least that is a global connection. For example, in this case, let me open the web config. Okay, this is just my local environment. In a production environment, those are connected to a key vault. And we have a master key vault that store all secrets that are global for the application. And each client that you see in GTPIT has its own key vault that has custom secrets. For example, here in
You're
my
saying
case,
there's a master key vault, shared master key vault for every client, and then there's a separate key vault for each client as well.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and for example, in our case, for connecting to GTPW, we can define the client, the secrets, the API URL, authentication URL. In our case, that comes to the master keyword because it is when use the same credentials
Yeah.
for all. And if we want to connect specifically, it needs to be created in the custom keyword for each client. So that is one way that we can integrate to another platform. So another way that we can integrate and make calls to the platforms is by using this Windows service. This Windows service allow us to run anything in background, but this is runs in specific queues that Handfire has. For example, here this is connected to execute Alteryx workflow, to execute bulk import of data, to execute virus scanners, to connect to another platforms like Vertex, that Vertex is making use of whitelisting. So here we can configure in the program and we can register the container. So for example, even when this code is in GTPAT, this Windows service is running on different virtual machines. So if you have, because what we are trying to do with this one is not to exhaust the web app. So if you have or if you want to connect and make some big processing, you can install this in a new virtual machine, and this will run there using the GTPAT context. So one of the examples that we have here is the LLML helper. And also we have here some big process that run in background like workbook generation. So this is like the way to run big processes. But the code that you see is here in this part. So what we are doing is just registering the classes in the container. And by default, this project it has a reference to the VCL1, that is where all the logic is developed. So that is like another way that we can use to integrate and run long processes.
Quick question there. So, in both the examples that you have shown, you have like the front end has the front end of GTPIT talks to a GTPIT API, and then that API triggers a background Hangfire job, right? If I'm understanding correctly.
Yes, it will depend on how you want to handle that, because you can directly call the API in the server methods that are defined here. But also, if let's say that is a long process or you need
Yeah.
to run it regularly, you can use a Handfire job.
Right.
And
It's a long process that we have, and we have to call multiple APIs within that. So, which is why I was asking, like, the hang fire job that you have in the backend, would that would that be how does it get triggered? Like, do you have to pass a message to an enterprise bus, service bus, and then that picks up the job? The hang fire worker picks up the job, or how is that configured?
okay, so here in the Handfire job, we pass the variables that we want to use. For example, let me look. For example, here there is a way that we can do a recurrent job, or we can use trigger the job
Yeah, not
from our
secron
server net.
jobs or recurring jobs, anything like message-based triggered. Is there a way to configure that?
Yes, you can, but the message is okay. You have the connection here to the service bus, right? And for example, here what we are doing is here we are triggering the job here. So you can receive the server bus message here that you can trigger the background job. Once you receive it, it is like manual triggering, and you pass all the parameters that you need. Now, if you in GTP there are different queues. The first one is the default queue. That queue will be executed in the web app, but there are also custom queues that are executed in a different virtual machine. So those queues that are executed in a virtual machine needs to be configured in the Windows services. So this Windows service is also connected to the same Handfire server. So in this case, this one is in charge of executing all queues that are not related to the web queue.
Uh, Hey, Duan, Mohit this side. So this piece of code at line 225 and 226, you are calling the backend job synchronously, right?
Yes, we can do it. Even we can connect different jobs. So this one, for example, this one is asynchronous, not synchronous. This one is asynchronous, but you can reuse the same method. Now, how do you define, let's say, if it needs to run in the web app or in the virtual machine, it is defined depending on the queue. And this queue are configured in a queue table that indicates which virtual machines will run that job. Not sure if I answered your question, Mohit.
Okay. Can you also like showcase the entries that you create in backend to run this job?
Sure, you mean a database level?
Yes, at database level.
Okay, give me one sec.
And the queues that you're showing here, are they I don't know, are they where are those queues? Like, are these on the Azure Service Bus, or are they on RabbitMQ, or where do they exist? Um, and do you have any observability into like what messages are in the queue right now, and what's processing, and how long things are taking? Do we have uh, any information on all of that?
Yes, that those queues are in GTP IT. They have a way to see which is the server that is executing. Let me log there, please. Okay, this is one, and the entries where the queues are configured. So in GTPaint,
Oh, okay. So it's backed by the SQL Server.
yes.
See, okay.
And here in the master database, we have this one, VMQ, where we can configure the server type and the queues that are being executed. So for example, the queues that belongs to virus scanners, okay, this also is split geographically. So for Asia, Americas, Europe, or Alemania, we have different geographies, so we can just run those queues. We can define which geography we want to use, and we define the queues here. So this Windows service will be in charge of run that queues. All this Windows service is installing all the virtual machines and the configuration is made here. Now, how can we see if the queue is being processed or not? Here in GTPIT, there is a dashboard. Okay, this is our lower environment. There is a dashboard where we can see the queue status. For example, Alteryx versus the virus scanner, we were failed, what we are retraining. We want to remove these, which servers are listening to run those queues, which queues are running on each server. So everything can be handled on here. So if, for example, here in Alteryx, I can see which is the status of the queue.
Just one note there, and just to clarify, it is not, well, it is kind of a service bus if you want to see it like that, but we don't use like this kind of these services that are commonly used for queue and event-driven development. Instead, we use this standalone service, which is called Hamfire. That's what the one has been showing us. It is deployed in a Windows service as a standalone in a virtual machine. So it has nothing to do with Service Bus or RabbitMQ, none of those services, but it is a Hamfire job, the way we work with queues.
Yeah, it's probably using SQL Server queues. SQL Server also has that concept of queues, very old, like a broker queue. So it's probably internally using that. I have to read up on Hangfire. I don't have enough experience on that to say those things, but that's what I feel like. Like I said, the Windows service is picking up from the SQL Server enterprise broker queues, and then handling the jobs. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, so here I know there are a couple of features that are connected to a service bus. So, but I don't have those features in Hanley right now. But GTPate allows you to connect to service bus to keep checking the queues or the topics that are exposed there. I'm not sure if you have any other question about how to execute, how to connect to third-party software.
Yeah. So the Hangfire jobs, they're talking to GTP workflow APIs, right? I know they're recurring jobs, but they're in the backend talking to GTP workflow APIs, which are external to GTP IT, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have something similar. We would have similar process where the user uploads a document in our set. Yeah. Speaking of documents, Jorge, we would also have to cover the document center thing. If you have any information on that, that would be great. So the user uploads a document, and then the documents gets sent through an API call to a platform. to another API call, external platform API. We get the response back. We use the response to make another API call somewhere else on the same an external platform, and another API call. And again, like it's a series of executions of API external API calls that we have to like do it in a hang fire, like a backend job, which could take minutes, few seconds to minutes, which is why I was asking all those hang fire questions.
Yes. So as you mentioned that you were going to use calls to API when a document is uploaded, all document uploading are being handled by this chunk upload controller. So here it has the logic, for example, when you load something to the document center, you can modify this. For example, in this case, for GTPW, we have a lane sustainable. So every time that a user is uploading a new file, if it belongs for, in this case, for example, for deliverables, what we are doing is calling the CGTP in link documents that in background is calling an API and generating the link and passing it to GTPW and waiting for the response. How we are connecting or we are getting the response of the background job that is running asynchronously. So in the background job, we are to return back the response. We are making use of Signaler. So once the job is completed, for example, in this example,
So you're
uh,
uploading the file to Document Center via an API call, or
mm,
how's that happening?
okay, in this case, we are uploading the file here in, sorry, in GTPIT. So here in the document center, every time that we upload a new file here from the UI, this controller is triggered. So on this controller, it handle off the logic to upload the files, to register those files in the tables that track them, and here you can put some logic to make different calls. So Document Center uploads the file. When it is loading, it is making use of this controller, and this controller, from this controller, you can call your own server methods.
Okay, so it's basically uploading to so the document that API controller, the chunk uploader controller. So does it upload to Azure Blobs and then does a scan on it? Can you give some information on that, like what actually the Document Center does? So when you upload it through this API, chunk upload controller, um, what does it do? Does it like upload to the Azure Blob, does a scan on it, and then whether it's good or bad, if the results are bad, it would delete it, and would it respond back to the document saying that this document is corrupted or something like that? How is that flow? How does
Yes,
that
it
flow work here?
is how you mentioned when we upload a file, the upload controller make a virus scanner. If the file doesn't have an inconvenient, it is loading that to the storage account, to the client storage account. And once it is linked to the client storage account, it takes the information of the link, path, and it is storing that information in a table called DB documents. So once all the process has been completed, it returns to the user if the file were successfully uploaded. So here in this controller also there are a couple of restrictions for let's say JSON files, XML files, and if it finds anything that doesn't look well, it is returning a message saying that even the file is not allowed, there were an error with the file. So also this is limited to the file size, I guess is 2 GB, the maximum amount. or the large of the file that it can execute. So, for example, in your case, that you want to perform some actions in GTPAT when a file is being loaded, the best way to make that change in this is in this controller. And also, you want to have created a license. So maybe one client have that feature enabled or not. So you need to check if that feature is enabled in GTPIT, so you can reuse it to call the APIs. Basically, that is the flow.
Okay. Akshay, Mohit, any questions from your side? Are you clear on all of the things that have been
Duan,
shared?
yeah, I just want to see the end-to-end flow. Let's say like the one Ram is was asking about, like if I have to upload a document, okay, could be a PDF file, and it is being uploaded to a blob storage. So can you show me that entire piece of code, how it is happening here?
Sure, for example, here, okay, let's say that we are uploading a file, right?
Mhm.
Okay, firstly, he'll analyze the file depending of the saved file. It could be a document center, an alteryx, a GTP file upload. It validates the roles of the user. If the user have the appropriate roles to upload the file to that feature, it will go ahead. Now, what it is doing, it is here it is getting the client information to see which is the storage account it needs to use for upload the file. So this is the secrets that I told you that are specific by client. And if everything goes well and the virus scanner has been passed, what it does is upload the files to the storage account. So it is done in, okay, here's it validate the file, it validates the restriction, he validates if the document exists or not. And in this part, it uploads it to Azure. So when it is uploading to Azure, it is validating the client ID, the client user, and it's getting the information and it's setting the file in the blob storage. Once it is set in the blob storage, it comes. Okay, depending on the feature, it is loaded to a different container inside the blob storage, and once the blob has been loaded, it is registering in the DB documents. So for each file, it is generating a unique identifier just to track the version of the file. And once has been uploaded, it is get deleted from the temporary folder.
That's in memory, right? The temporary folder?
No, that is a physical folder in the web app.
The web app. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's on the server though. That or
Yes.
on the user space. That's what I was trying to ask.
It's in the app server.
App server. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it could be also in the virtual machine if it is running in an alternative in a background job. Is
Got it.
that correct, Ivan?
Yes, and okay, for the case of document center, yes, but for example, if we are using Alteryx, it depends when the upload is being processed. If it's in Alteryx, the file will be stored in the virtual machine. If not, it will be stored in the in the web app. And okay, here is a part of when virus scanner is being executed. This is being executed with Windows Service. If everything goes well, it keep the file. If not, it will delete the file and add some meta data to the file just to identify which is the information that needs to be stored. So here there is a validation of the extension file. If let's say it's JSON, if it's an XML, or if another kind of file, it is validating that the file contains the right extension. So you may face issues when you are uploading XML file because the signature needs to match with the signature that GTP IT is expecting. Other files that doesn't match the signature will generate an error and will mark the file as failed.
So,
Yeah.
the one, how are we configuring the, I mean, maintaining the configurations like where we are, in which and where Azure Blob we are going to upload the file?
Okay, and that is a configuration done by client. Every time that you are sending something from here, it is passing as part of the request the client ID. Based on the client ID, it goes to a database just to get the key vault URL. And in the key vault URL, it is extracting the storage account and the information related to the client. This down up here. Here, here it is based on the client ID and the client name. Here it is reading the key vault secret and is getting the storage account value. Did I answer your question?
Yes, this answers my question.
I've seen that screen like as ESUT. Is that sales and use tax, Duan? The browser web page that you have open. I was just looking at that domain name, um, the document center website that you have it open. I don't know if it was your screen or somebody else's. Yeah. It says SUTCC. So does that mean it's sales and use tax or what is that about?
Yes, it says and use tax. That is a tax type that we are using, but this is a lower environment. That is something that we are creating for integration with a third application.
Okay, okay. The
But
reason I'm asking is our use case is also same, but it's different from what you guys are building. It
mm,
covers under sales and use tax, but a different perspective. Just curious, like, what do you guys do? Like, do you guys upload invoices and then extract information from it, or what's the flow like?
no, basically what we are doing is connecting to a third application just to extract tax rates and see the tax returns by state. But we are not doing anything like AI to analyze invoices, and that is
Okay,
not part of the
got
scope.
it. Got it. Okay, you said calculate tax rate. I think I need access, like, to those. Those are tax engines, right? That you're trying to get the tax rate for certain goods sold.
Yes, currently that is under development, so it will be, let's
Okay.
say, in 6
Okay,
months. That is in
but
another release.
right, but is that the tax engine that you're trying to um, build, or are you leveraging the tax engine that is already part of GDP IT?
We are using the tags that are in GTPIT, but we are connecting to a third party just to get the update tags by county and district because
By
those are being
by
changed.
country and what?
County, county and the district.
I didn't quite get that. Um, you said
Yes.
country and risk, or
Okay, let me type it here. County,
oh,
district.
District.
county. Okay,
Yeah,
county and district. Okay, sorry, my bad.
yeah. No.
Um, gotcha. So it's regional. Yeah, we're doing something similar, but different criteria, of course. So I would be curious if uh, which tax engines that you're planning to use, because we probably have to use the same tax engines um, to calculate the tax rates for for the goods that were purchased or the services that were purchased. So if you have any information on that, I mean, nothing urgent. If you could share those with them, that would share those with us. That would be great.
Okay. Okay, let me see how the team is working on it. So if I get something, I will share. Because that is a long project that we are building here.
Right, right, yeah. Um, so we have some commonality, so I may trouble you down the line.
Okay.
Cool. Let me see what else. Mohit, do you have all your questions answered?
Yeah. Almost, not all, but almost.
What do you mean? Do you have anything else left that you need to ask, or?
Yes, I have a question for Duan. Duan, just can you help me understand, like, for backend task to execute, where do we have to register, and what all entries we have to do, like, where we have to register the task and all the entries in database that we have to do. Can you tell me?
Sure, it will depend if you have a lower environment or not. If you don't have a lower environment, you need to raise a request to the GTP support team. They will register it for you. But if you are running it locally, you can use system in the master teams disable to register the queues or the tags that are being going to run. Now, in the code, let's say if you want to use Handfire and run the process, the logic is already there. You just need to use this sentence to background in queue, background job in queue. So here, what it is going to do is in this method, you can define a decorator with the queue that you want to use. If you define a queue, it will go with the default queue. And if let's say if you want to have your process executed in the virtual machine, you need to register in this project in the Alteryx Win service. You need to register your class as a containerized class here in the web service. So it will allow you to run the all the logic in the virtual machine instead of the web app.
Okay. I do not see any configuration related to the cron expressions. So how are we evaluating, like, when the task is to be executed in asynchronous way or at particular frequency or interval?
Okay, here if you are not if this just triggering it, it will be executed once you trigger it. So, but if you want to use cron expression to run it recurrently, you can use it here. So here, for example, we have recurring jobs where we are using the cron expression to say, okay, this one is run every minute, every 5 minutes, every day at 10 p.m. Or you can say, okay, I want just to have this execution once per day. So, so if you want to run it asynchronous without defining background job, you can just trigger it in your class that you are defining. You just trigger it and it is executed immediately. But if you want to have a recurrent job, you can register that in the setup file class, and you can define the cron expression here.
Okay. So, I mean, like, if I have to develop a task and have to check it on localhost, so for that, do I have to, like, install and configure Hangfire on local machine as well, or it can be done without the Hangfire as well?
It can, okay, if you are using this, if you have restored this code, once
Mhm.
you start this project, it creates the Handfire tables in your master database. So every time that it is done, it is creating these Handfire tables on the server. So you don't need to install anything additional that comes with embedded in GTP-IT. Now, if you want to use a specific queue, you will need to install this Windows service in your local machine. If you are using a queue that is not that is not running in the web app. Otherwise, if it is running on the web app, you just need to define it and don't provide a queue. Leave it blank and it will run local.
So if you have to create a queue for our use case, right? What would be the process like? I know you mentioned a couple of tables, but would having an entry in those tables be enough, or do we have to do any other plumbing?
Okay, the first thing that you will need to do is to install this Windows service if you are running it locally. You install this Windows service, right? And once you install here in this table, in this virtual machine, as that will be an Alteryx execution. Okay, this is like a legacy name. So here you configure the server name. In this case, will be the host name of your machine, and you indicate the queue. If you have already it registered, you just concatenate the new queue name. Once
So
you
for every queue, do you have to like create that Windows service, or?
no, that Windows service
But it
execute
says
all queues.
Alteryx, right? So that's why the naming of that solution says Alteryx, so that's why I was
Yeah.
asking that question.
Yes. Okay. It's used. This is a like legacy name because at the beginning this Windows service was told used to run Alteryx, but as the application has been grown, now this is running or
Lot of queues in there is what you're
yes,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in the configuration, you just need to concatenate the new queue name, and that's all.
I saw the queue as TIW. Where is that queue? Like, how is that queue registered?
Which one?
And one of the code lines, I saw queue in parentheses, there was STIW. So I was just wondering, how is that configured?
No, it's you just declare the decorator, and that's all. You don't need to do any extra configuration because this queue is being taken by reflection by in the Windows service.
Okay. But my question is, do we have to like register that STIWQ name somewhere in the code or
No,
in the database? No?
using the database.
Okay.
Here.
But that's for
Gotcha.
local, right? So for production, how would you define a new queue and use that?
Okay, for production, you need to raise a request to the GTP IT team, indicating the queue name, and they will create it for you. For example, you need
Okay,
to
okay.
tell them, okay, I need this queue, and it will be running in the Alteryx Win service. They will do it for you.
Okay, and can I ask something about this service itself? You said it runs on a virtual machine. I assume what it's on the cloud somewhere, like in an Azure virtual machine or something. And is it scalable? I'm not sure exactly how it works.
Okay, for example, in Azure, we have different virtual machines. That virtual machines come by geography, so and also by queues. So here you can have three Alteryx server types, but with different queue. So um, the virtual machine can be escalated, but the Windows service need to be installed on each virtual machine. So that is how they are segregating it.
I mean, locally, when you're running this Alteryx service, what is it doing? Is it actually connecting and running something on Azure, or is it doing it all locally, and how is it in production?
It is doing all locally.
Okay, so if it was in a production application version of the application, would it be running it on Azure? Everything on Azure? Would it be scalable?
It will be running in a virtual machine in Azure.
Okay, in Azure. And can you configure how many of those virtual machines you want to be using? Because if you have like too many like pipelines, would it just be one virtual machine for each queue, consuming stuff from each queue and waiting for it to finish some tasks and then grab some others? Can you configure it to have like many virtual machines? Do we know this?
No, I don't have that level of knowledge. But if you want, let's say, to concatenate different jobs and wait for the execution to
I see.
execute the
Okay.
next one, you can just concatenate those background jobs. If, but it will depend on how you define it. If you, let's say, define different queues, for example, this to run in a QA, QB, or QC, you can do it, and you can ask for having one virtual machine per queue or to run all queues in the same virtual machine. It will depend on how you define that topology.
So each queue can have its own separate virtual machine. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
but that needs to be confirmed with the GTPIT platform team because
Okay.
you will need to raise a business request and detail why you need a different virtual machine for queues.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And can I ask something else? So, for example, let's say we want to do this upload a document and then trigger some pipeline that runs for a couple minutes. So someone clicks on the front end, clicks a button, and that triggers something on the back end, which like a script that calls this background and queue thing to trigger a hangfire job. So this step of the front end communicating with the back end, where is this? I think you had a file that was this file workbook creation. Where is this in the GDPIT folder structure? Like this backend API for the web application that will trigger the hangfire job? Where is this configured?
Okay. That is configured on here. Let me see. For example, if you're running, let me see where is GTPIT already have the logic to identify where it needs to be configured. It is already done there, but let me look for the code. Yes, okay, it's this one. This logic is in charge of telling to the system where the file has been uploaded. So if it has been uploaded in the web app or in the Hangfire job or in the virtual machine, and this is the way how you can access that file. And let's say, as you say, that you will upload a file to the document center and you need to trigger something. The idea is that you trigger that in background so the whole process won't be stopped. Something like what we are using for GTPW.
Okay, actually, yeah, that's actually helpful for a different part. But the question was more like so where is this the code that triggers? Sorry, so basically, where is this workbook creation script stored in? I assume the front end calls this script in some way through an endpoint or something, because I'm not very clear on that.
Okay, you mean how the document center is calling this endpoint?
Yeah, or rather, basically, this workbook creation is triggered by maybe some other script that is triggered by something on the front end. Where are those scripts held essentially on the folder structure? Do they need to be in a certain specific place?
Yes, for example, for this workbook creation, this is being triggered from the front end. That is a TypeScript file. That TypeScript file here in the
Here.
GTP infrastructure, we have two main folders. The first one is the apps folder, and the second one is the servers plugin. The apps folder is handling all the front-end configuration, and you can, for example, in this case, for each feature that we have here, we need to define two files. an HTML and a TypeScript file. This is built
yeah.
in GLJS with Delphi. So the HTML basically define the structure. If you see here, we don't define any type like input, drop down, select. All is being defined here in the TypeScript. Where based on the diffs, we are just modifying the DOM and in this
Yeah, it's
case,
cool. They had covered this in the previous section with the
okay.
front end, so yeah, this is good actually. But this workbook creation, for example, all the backend stuff, where is this held?
Okay,
Wasn't the server plugins?
yes, in the server plugins in its own folder. So as we all of us are federated teams, that is in the server's plugins, and also there is a folder called teams. Here is where we do all the classes configuration and backend configuration.
Right, yeah,
Like
that's
it.
very helpful. Yeah. Thank you. That's it from me.
Duan, can you show us if you have to test this background task? So how can we do that? Like executing this background task?
Okay, for testing that, currently GTPIT is not supporting Postman that you can call directly the APIs. What I suggest you to do is to create like a landing page here with TypeScript and make this call. So every time that you go to, let's say, for a specific tile, it will trigger this part to execute that in background. So, and you can test in that way. If you are running, let's say, through the Windows service, you need to attach the process of the Windows service to be able to debug it.
So I mean, like I standalone cannot do this on my own. I have to take help of GTPIT.
Yeah.
Okay.
That also brings the question, or hey, like where do we, like what all components would be required, like the deployment process, like a sandbox. I thought we'll have enough time to cover that, but do you still have that information that you want to share, or would you need another session to cover that?
It will be another session because deploying that in a sandbox environment takes a lot of steps. But then that session can be led by Jorge Alexander. He can explain you how to implement there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of one of the next sessions. Also, we have pending to cover the communication between front end and back end. The
Yeah.
2 ways we had for doing that.
Okay. Then we'll use rest of the few minutes to cover any questions that others may have. Okay. Do you have anything to ask?
No, Ram, I'm good. Actually, team already covered whatever doubts I had.
Okay. This is that. Remember the Hangfare orchestration is important for us, right? Looking at our case simplistically, the orchestration does the heavy load of orchestrating the agents that are external to on EYQAB, right? So think about that. So having Hangfire tested out is important. So I think it's important to for you guys to like get that started, and how the service method triggers those Hangfire stuff. I mean, we'll try to see if we can deploy a sandbox, but that's something that I would like you guys to like get started on, because that's critical, at least for once the Hangfire process in there, then adding on top of that additional API calls would be not that difficult, if I understand correctly. So having this initial setup, I note all the um, gaps that you may have or come across when you start to build the Hangfire jobs. So please work on that.
Yeah, agreed. Can I just want to ask if we wanted to, there's no extra setup that we need to communicate with something or permission to communicate with something like an LLM site, for example. You want to send like a request to, as long as we have like the right key, you can just communicate with that, right? No extra permissions required, even from within a Hangfire job.
Yeah, that's what I figured because they had this external integration with GDP workflow, right? That's again part of EY, but similar to AB, it's another platform where they have deliverables.
Yeah.
So they're making an API call and able to retrieve it. So I'm hoping there are no outbound restrictions on their infrastructure and the
Yeah.
VNets. So yeah, which is why it is important for us to like get that initial piece of connection from the user uploading the document to Document Center and using that to send it over to the EYQAB through Hangfire job and extract that information back and save that to your data store. This at least this uh, simple path is something that we need to like immediately focus on. Because once that is established, then we know like what else would be needed, or
It's the
what
main
else is
building block.
missing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. All right. We have 2-3 minutes left on this call. Any other questions that you guys have?
Not anything else from me. I guess only the remaining question is about the MCP server thing. But
Yeah, we have to cover that in the next call. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I might as well schedule something on everyday basis as well because we probably need that, need more sessions. So I'll look out for invites on calendars if I schedule something for the days I didn't schedule now.
Okay, good.
Cool. Well then, thanks guys. Appreciate all your help, Jorge and Duan especially. We'll connect on the next meeting on Monday. Until then, happy weekend.
Yep.
Thank you.
To you
Thank
guys.
you all.
Bye-bye.
See you Monday.
Thanks,
Bye.
Joey. Thanks, everyone.